I'm going to give you a behind the scenes look at the workflow I used to make a short film using Seedance 2 with native 4K resolution. For this movie, I used CapCut Director, which is both agentic and canvas based. Now, if you don't know what that means, I'm going to show you, but the quick version is I put all of my creative assets on a canvas, which is sort of like a mood board, and then I chat with the CapCut agent using regular conversational language about the videos I want to generate and the changes I want to make. Now, the thing I love about this approach is that it allows me to focus on storytelling and creativity rather than prompting. There are a few things I don't like, and I'll get into those a little bit later. I'm also going to show you how to use AI within CapCut's editing software to fix some clips. And if you want to find that, just look at the chapters. And just as a reminder, I've also got a course on the fundamentals of AI filmmaking. This is the CapCut Video Studio. If we want to add something to the canvas, we can click one of these options here. So you could add some text. Could add an image, then we would write our prompt and choose our model if we wanted Nano Banana or one of these other models to choose from. And the same thing for video. So we select it there and then we click on the canvas to write the prompt. This is sort of a standard way of generating, but I like to use the AI agent and I can just have conversations. When I made the short film Precious Cargo, I primarily used this chat interface. The nice thing about Canvas is that you can lay everything out in a way that makes sense to you. For me, I like to have all of my assets over here, and then the style and script here, and then all of my videos over here. My raw materials have to go through the script in order to become videos. And all of that happens by chatting with the agent. And if you want to preview a video, you just simply roll over it. Zoom in. So this is my project on the canvas, and this is the completed project. The first thing on this canvas for me was the style and the script. So since I have the style here, it knows that I want to create all of my footage in this style. This is something that you might be putting into every single prompt, but this way you just put it in once and it applies it to all of the clips. And then this is my script. Initially, I wrote this out just as paragraphs of what I wanted the action to look like. Here's the first paragraph of what I wrote. And then I actually brought this into Claude and said, can you optimize this for Seedance 2? The one thing Claude did was put in these timestamps. So it goes 0 to 13 and then 13 to 21. And that's helpful because then CapCut Director knows approximately how long to generate the video for. So it's not trying to do a 5-second clip for this longer scene, and it's not trying to do a really long clip for something that's a short inset shot. So once I had my style and my script, I focused on the character. So I have a character reference sheet for her with a close-up front, 3/4 side and back view. This was done in Nano Banana. So she has these glowing arrows that have electricity on the heads. There's the bow, and then there's a quiver that she'll wear on her back. Now, when it comes to props, I wanted to have her reading a book at the beginning. Initially, I was going to have her pick up the same book at the end. So I created a paperback book. And then I have another prop for the binoculars. So she'll pick up the binoculars and look through them to see the spiders coming. After I had the main character, I created the spider. I wanted one version to have fangs and another version to have like chainsaw fangs. My initial thought was that she would be on the same car the entire time. So I generated a car and then I put it at the very end of a train. And then I did this cave-like tunnel, which I didn't actually end up using. And you can tell because in the cave scenes, there's lights. And that creates some really interesting lighting dynamics that I think work a lot better. So I had all of the creative assets that I needed to start generating video. Here's a mistake I made early on that hopefully you can avoid too. I was almost like micromanaging the project. So I would put the style in there, the paperback book, Harper, the train, and then I would paste the script. So I was manually binding all of the elements and adding the script there. After generating a few versions of the opening scene, it was starting to feel like a lot of work. I didn't feel like I was taking advantage of conversational directing. And then I asked the agent, if you've got my script and the style and all of the assets, can I just say generate scene 2, or do you need a prompt? And then it says, when you ask for a scene, I'm going to reference the script, apply the style, bind the visual anchors, so the character, the location, and the props. It's like, my recommendation, you do not need to copy and paste the long prompts. Just tell me generate scene X. So that's what I started to do. So this first shot of the spiders is great, but you see the spiders running toward the train. And obviously if she's on the train, this wouldn't be her perspective. The spiders would be running toward her and we wouldn't see the train in the shot at all. So one thing I did, and I think I made a mistake here, is I generated an image of the spiders running toward the train. The problem is it used that almost like a start frame. And so they all kind of looked like this. And then sometimes I think because it was binding the binoculars, I would get shots like this. And even worse like this. When I realized what it was trying to do with the binoculars, I just said, hey, you're showing the actual lenses. It's only supposed to be the vignette as if looking through binoculars. I think this is a good example of when you notice something's wrong, being able to explain what's wrong about it. It gives the agent the context to realize what it needs to do to update it. You'll notice I didn't say remove the binoculars reference. I just said, here's the problem that I'm seeing. And then the agent knew how to adjust its approach to get rid of that problem. The model thought I wanted to see the binoculars when really I just wanted the vignette that you would have if you were looking through binoculars. So this scene turned out great, but something very important to the story is missing. She doesn't have the bow and arrows anywhere near her, so they're just not visible in this shot. So I needed to do the shot again, and it cost more credits. So it's like, hey, what's going on here? How come this one is over 1,600 credits and this one is 1,200? It said, okay, so in reference mode, it's based on the number of references that you're using. Harper, the paperback, the last train car, and the train is 4. But now for this generation, it's 5 references. So we've added the bow and arrow and the binoculars. So I just said, all right, let's do 13 seconds instead of 15. I was having a lot of problems getting her inside of a tunnel that felt like it was long enough for the action to take place in. And then once she was in the tunnel, you could always see one end of the tunnel, which is something I didn't want. So here's the framing that I wanted. I just sketched this out on a little post-it note that I had, and it looks terrible, but it's good enough for Seedance to understand what I'm going for. It doesn't need to be this hyper-realistic storyboard image. It can just be like these stick figures. So from a post-it note to this. I don't usually do action, but one thing that bothers me in action is if it's just kind of like visual spectacle and there's no development. So it starts with one of them on the train, she takes it out, then she's picking them off from the moving train. I wanted to do a scene where there's a little bit more ingenuity involved. So there'd be 2 spiders on the metal rail, and she realizes, hey, I can get 2 for 1 if I send the current through the metal rail, and then they'll both get electrocuted. There's her skill as an archer, there's her ingenuity, and then once we get into the tunnel, we've seen her kill a lot of spiders already. So I wanted the spider to knock the bow and arrow out of her hands. It gets smashed as the train exits the tunnel. So now we've got her without her bow and arrow. Now in the original version of this, she didn't have her bow, but she still had the arrow. And I kind of thought she could just use the arrow and smash it into the face of the spider. So that was kind of what I was doing at first. And then the original ending was like, oh, then she'll just go back to reading her book. Like, it's just another day for her. This is what she does. But I felt like that wasn't really enough. I thought if I was watching this, I would want there to be a little bit more. So I had this thought, okay, where is this train going? What's inside the train that she's protecting? And is there a way that we can highlight the risk? So I had 2 different ideas. One is that she's going to show up at this eco-punk village set along the rails. This is maybe her home. And then there has to be something in the container that feels worth saving. I think one thing that bothers me in a lot of action movies is that the stakes are always so high. Like it's a nuclear warhead, or it's like gold bricks, or I don't know. I don't watch action movies. It has to be big, either because it's going to cause destruction or because it costs a lot of money. And I wanted to avoid those things. I wanted it to be where she was doing something for someone. What I decided on was to have this cat, which some of you may recognize this Bengal cat from a lot of my movies. Beside it just being a cat, I wanted her to give it to someone who is probably her mother. So I basically used Harper, aged her up, gave her a scar and an eye patch and a different outfit, and that's her mom. So she's going to give the cat to her mom. We're not really sure why she's giving it to her, but we see the reaction that her mom has. To me, the reason isn't as important as the reaction. So it could be because this was her cat, or because there's a lot of goats around but no cats. Maybe she's going to use the cat to do some sort of medical experiments. Like, it's kind of open to interpretation, right? Another thing that bothers me in action movies is how everything is over-explained. So if anything, I was on the side of under-explaining. A lot of movies that I enjoy have endings that are open to interpretation. I'm not always looking for answers in movies as much as new questions. Once I had the cat in mind, I thought, well, so you have these machines that are attacking a train, but what if they're trying to just destroy what's inside? I created this shot of a spider opening up the side of a car and then spewing this venom into the car. Later, we first see these sacks of grain that are being pulled out. So this is food supply for the people who live in this area. So presumably, if Harper hadn't taken out any of the spiders, the entire train supply would have been ruined. Not just the cat, but all of their supplies that they need from this train. Again, I wanted to do all of this by visually showing it and not having people... Like, it would have been really easy for her to say something like,
I've got to stop these machines from destroying all the food, or else everyone in the town will perish?
I feel like you should just be able to watch this movie and pick those things up. So for the reveal, I thought it would be fun to be inside the cargo container, have the doors open up, and then we pan down and see it's a cat. And sort of like the low stakes of the cat is the point. Like, oh, it's just a cat. I wanted to show an eye-level view of this little community, so I have her carrying the cat cage on her head, walking through, looking around. I did a couple versions of this one. When she shows up with it, something was missing, and I couldn't figure out what it was at first. It's like she just sort of shows up next to her, and she's like, oh, okay. What I realized I needed was a reverse angle shot of her carrying the cat cage on her head, so we see the recognition on her face as the cat is approaching. This shot ties these two together really well. So I asked the agent if it could use the last frame of this video as the start frame for the next video, and it could, and it did a really good job. There used to be a lot of workarounds to take the last frame of a video and make it the first frame of the next video, and in this agentic workflow, I can just instruct the agent to do that. I really wanted to focus more on Harper's facial reaction. I wanted to see how much emotion I could squeeze in one shot. So there's a lot going on here. Is it as good as a human actor? No. But I don't feel like that's the right standard to determine if it's good. To me, it's like, does this convey what I'm trying to show? And it does. It shows a lot of complex feelings. Her emotions shift over the course of a few seconds, from being exhausted to sad to amused. Her emotional state is very ambiguous, and that's intentional. So I said I love agentic models, but there are a few things that I don't like about them. One of those is how using the agent takes up credits as well. So you're getting charged for the tokens that you're using when you converse with the agent. And I'm not against that generally, because I understand this takes compute resources, and it makes me think about how efficiently I can communicate with the agent. But the problem was, as I was running out of credits, I was trying to determine how many video clips I had left. And based on how the agent would think about things, it would use up more resources. So you see sometimes it might be 500 or 300. These are video clips, I think. So the agent is handling a lot of manual tasks, but it's important to remember that you're paying for that as well. So if you understand that and that cost is worth saving time, that's perfect. It can still be difficult to budget because the cost of a 15-second clip varies based on how many references you use and how much the agent has to think about what you're asking it to do. So it's a trade-off. The other thing that tripped me up in the agentic mode was just the enthusiasm level of the agent. Here's a few examples. So I talk a little bit about the scene of the spider attacking the cargo train. And it comes back with, "This is a brilliant masterclass storytelling addition." That's okay, right? Like, you know that these agents hype you up, which is fine. But then, like, I would say, yeah, let's show one of the grain sacks with like the damage. And be like, "This is an extraordinarily powerful storytelling focused scene. Check out this one." So just now I asked, can you change your personality to be more of a technical collaborator? Someone who can help me optimize what I'm trying to do for Seedance. So I would recommend doing that at the beginning of the project and not like what I just did now after the project is complete. I edited this in CapCut and this is what this shot looked like in the final, but this is what the generated clip looked like. So if you just looked at a still, you would say, okay, that's the train up ahead with the steam blowing, but the problem is like the train is coming toward us. So that's like almost like a caboose that would be pushing it. So what I did was in the video section, there's this AI remove, and it's just like a paintbrush. So it's 80 credits, but I don't need this whole clip. So I'm just going to trim it. As I start to trim it, you'll see the number of credits goes down. So if I only need this section, it's good to trim it first. And then I'll choose this brush. You can choose the size of the brush here. If you want a bigger one, you can go like that. In this case, I'm going to do right about there. I'm just going to go. So I just painted it out, and then I'm going to say remove. I did the same thing for this shot because you'll see there was a train here. This didn't make sense because there shouldn't be that car behind them. So I was able to draw around this train and remove it from the shot. So there's a lot of AI features in here. To me, this shot is amazing. Not that I did it, but that Seedance could do it, because we start in a tunnel and it's her and it's the correct spider and it's the right train. She pulls back the bow. The spider knocks it away, rises up to crush her, gets pulled back to this container. It slides off. She's safe. She catches up to the camera, passes the camera, and then turns, and we see the spider coming. So this is one 15-second clip. If you're new to AI within the past year or two, you're probably thinking, yeah, it's not good enough. I can tell it's fake. But if you've been doing this for a while, these were the kinds of shots that we dreamed about a few years ago. And they're possible now. And if it's possible for big action movies, it's also possible for smaller stories. So it's really about the story that you want to tell. You don't have to tell an action story just because the model does action well. It's really fun to experiment with different genres and different styles and really mix genres. That's one thing that I really like, is when there's a mashup between two different styles. So in this case, we have a high octane action movie and we have what is hopefully a little bit more of a heartfelt drama. It's sort of a combination of a Hollywood blockbuster movie, but with more of a smaller scale storytelling approach. So that is how I used CapCut Director and the Canvas and Agent mode to make this movie. Go check out the full movie. If you like tutorials like this, be sure you subscribe. I've got a lot more. And just as a reminder, I've also got a course on the fundamentals of AI filmmaking.
So memory varies LC, the stark maple acid, there's been in Canamip in the stall, they recorded on it that's